Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Expand and Evolve podcast. If you've never been here before, I'm your host, Carly Pinchin, and I'm so excited because we have a guest joining us today. Her name is Phoenix White. She's a mama, business owner. She's in the spiritual community. She is so uplifting to other women. And honestly, I don't even know how, like, maybe we connected over a reel on Instagram. I don't even know. Right. And I'm like, and then I saw you and I was like, oh my gosh, I love you. And then I followed you. And I don't even know, it might have been a week or two ago. I was like, we need to do a podcast because I love your energy. I love everything you're doing and just what you're doing, just how you show up in this space. And so I thought it would be really cool to just have a conversation. We really don't know each other at all. We're going to get to know each other here and just talk all things like business, motherhood, spirituality, like is there anything you want to say specifically about you? Like, I know on your Instagram, it says like you're the founder of the Sacred Celestial, you're an author, you're a speaker. But is there anything you want to say specifically about who you are, what you do before we kind of jump into it?
I'm a mama. I'm everything that you said.
Yeah.
And I'm a mama, but I'm also a person who has purpose, and
Mhm.
I'm like living in my purpose. And I love helping women to heal, people in general, but my specific
Mm.
calling is women. And I'm balancing it all and I'm just
Yeah.
walking in my purpose. So that's, I don't need a whole lot of titles. It's
I
all good.
know.
Just,
Right.
yeah, that was
It's
perfect.
it's so funny when you get because I've asked people that who are you? What do you do? And it's like once you start, I feel like on this journey too, you're like, I'm just me. Like I
I'm just
don't.
me. Yeah.
Right? Like you're like, I'm just doing my things. And like it's weird to even add titles because you're like, but that's not who I am, you know?
It's what I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not what I am.
exactly.
What I
Yeah.
am is I am me, but I'm a mama and like,
Yeah.
I have things that I love and
Yeah.
I'm just trying to be more of myself every single day. And that's kind of it. It's like, yeah, I have all these things I do that we could
Yeah.
talk about. But, I feel like this podcast is just about us being
Yeah.
us,
Hmm.
and just to say, I follow you too.
Yeah.
And I think it was from a reel or
Yeah.
two. And I was like,
Yeah.
I like her. I like her. So that was so cool that she reached out.
Right. And I just think it's so cool, even because obviously there's so much that you could say is negative about social media, but I'm like, it's
Yeah.
all how you use it because I've used it to connect with amazing human beings who
Yeah.
I never would have been connected to without it.
Yeah.
And it's just what you allow into your field, honestly. And it's like, stop watching the stuff that's negative and just find the positive and you'll start to just change your algorithm and then it can become a really positive place.
Exactly. I think the algorithm changes and it brings you more
Yes.
of what you want. And so if you are looking for things that are more uplifting or empowering or beautiful, then you will get more reels like
Yeah.
that. And so, yeah, I
You're
totally.
just such an angel of beauty. I'm just like, you're,
I'm looking at you like, oh, she's so beautiful.
thank you. Okay. My first question that I want to know, I'm just like, for you to get into this work and be so passionate to help women, like, what is your story? Like, there had to be moments that, because I feel like nobody just is 10 years old or 15 years old or 20 years old and they're just like, yep, this is what I'm doing with my life. So what are like the big things that kind of led you to where you are today? And obviously that's a loaded question, but I feel like I'm going to get to
Yeah.
know a lot about you from that.
I feel like trauma.
Hmm.
Okay, so let me go all the way back.
Yeah. Yeah.
I always felt like I was different.
Yeah.
I never felt like I just fit anywhere. So I always felt like, when I was younger, I have memories of just staring at the stars and seeing shooting stars all the time. And people were like, you saw shooting stars? Like, I used to see them every other day. So I was like this person who was like the weird one who felt like she was an alien or something. Like I didn't fit. I got dropped off in my family. So I was always a little different, trying to fit in, but never really fit.
Mhm.
And then I started having like really crazy experiences. A lot of us, I feel like, who are called to really connect and help others, we have a lot of really crazy experiences. We've been through a lot of things. And I think it's beautiful. Like, I don't have any regrets for any of the things that I've been through because it gives me more compassion, more empathy. It makes me more relatable and I understand more. I can feel you, like I get it. I know what that's like. And so I don't have any regrets for the stuff I've been through, but I've been through a lot of shit.
Hmm.
Can we cuss on
Oh
here?
yeah. You can say whatever
Okay.
you
I've been through a lot of
want.
shit. And so I'm like the spiritual chick that cusses. I don't curse people, but I cuss.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I think one of the pivotal moments if I could just pick one,
Mm-hmm.
it would be having brain surgery, would be one. Um, Being raped on my graduation night would be another. Like shifts where it was like splits of
Yeah.
shifts where it's like, okay, I'm going to another level. Having my first son, um, and I would say when I was sent to a foster home when I was younger.
How
Like
old were you when you were sent to the foster home?
I don't remember. I keep trying to piece it together, so I'm thinking I was around 7 or 8.
Right.
Because my baby sister, we're all like 3 years apart.
Yeah.
So if she was still a baby, I was around 7 or 8.
Right.
And so those would be like chunks of time where it's like I had to go back to those spaces to
Mm-hmm.
start to do work. You know, the brain surgery really like kind of catapulted me into like, okay,
Okay,
I
so when was that? Yeah, like how old were you? What happened?
the brain surgery, it was like 2010. And it was right after I had my first son.
Mm,
So, um, well, not right after. He was a little bit older. He was about 3
yeah.
when I had that brain surgery, and it was kind of a moment where you had to have faith that you were going to live, but preparing to die.
Mm,
And so it was like you could die on this table during this process. Do you have all your affairs in order? So it put me in a different mind state where I had to really like prep for things. I had to really
mm,
like look at my life to see who would I let my son go to, and what do I do with this, and how do you really feel about dying? And that's when I realized I wasn't afraid
mm-hmm.
to die, which is
Yeah.
weird for most
No,
people.
I'm same. And I
Yeah,
don't know if that's like the more, I don't know, if you kind of remember where you came from or you're more connected, that it's really not scary. Like, it's peace and it's love and it's good versus when you're so attached to like being here, it feels like the worst thing ever. Where for me, I'm like, I know I can't even imagine for you with a new baby. Like, that
that was
would be the hardest part.
that.
It's not
Yeah,
really about you. It's like, but my
yeah.
baby.
That was the only time I cried.
Mm,
When I thought about I'm all he has because he didn't,
mm-hmm,
I was a single mom at that time.
mm-hmm,
And so he didn't have the dad to fall back on. It was just me and my family members, of course, but it was like I'm the person he loves the most.
yeah,
So he's gonna be really sad. And that made me sad. But
yeah,
just like dying and feeling like, you know what? I did a lot while I was here. The things that crossed my
yeah,
mind were not normal.
yeah.
I didn't feel like they were normal. And then when I actually had the brain surgery, I remember being in this space. I feel like I was in this space about to die.
Mm,
And I had to choose to come back. So that was one of those moments. That's why I was like, this was like a really transitional,
yes.
shifting moment because I was floating in this space. So there's an in-between space.
Mm-hmm.
I only know this because I've been there. And maybe it's not for everybody else, but this is where I was. It's an in between space. It's dark, but it's warm. It's not scary. And you're just floating.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the most peace I have ever felt in my life. I wasn't thinking about anybody. In that moment, I didn't have kids. I
Mm,
didn't have worries. I didn't have anything. It was just me in this peaceful moment. And I was loving it. I didn't want to go back. And I remember this little voice kept
mm.
calling my name and I didn't want to hear it. And I was ignoring it over and over. And then it got louder and louder and louder as I started to pay attention. And then it brought me back. And then all of a sudden I was in the hospital and these lights were like shining in my face. And I was like, oh, and I was like, we thought we lost you. We kept calling. And I was like, I know. I was ignoring you guys.
Wild.
Didn't want to
It's
come back.
right. But I'm
And
like,
it's crazy to say that. That is a really true, 100% true story with no extra. You
no,
know.
and you know what's wild? Because when I was in Costa Rica, my first plant medicine experience,
Hmm.
somebody drowned, okay? And they pulled him back on shore, and I watched him decide. Like, I watched him almost come back. He was hearing our names, he was there. And then he opted out. And like the moments leading up to that event, he had already almost been choosing it. It was so crazy. But it's like when you get to this place, you're like, no, this is just, it's all like divinely placed. Like he had said all of these things leading up to the moment. And then when he was on the shore, I could see, and everyone else would think this is crazy, but I'm like, No, he literally in that moment chose that he was like, no, I'm good. I'm okay to move on now. And we watched it happen. And it was like just the cycle of life. And like, and then this moth during our ceremony when we were honoring him came and sat with us and then flew into his cacao bowl at the end to be like, as we were ending it, flew right in there. He sat with us the whole time. And I was like, this is like, this circle of life is crazy. And it gives you such a deeper meaning to, I don't know, the connectedness and just how like all of it is interconnected. And
Yeah,
also there's nothing to be afraid of.
for
Like you
sure.
said, that dark, warm peace. Like there's nothing to worry about. It's just love.
It's so beautiful. It's so
Mhm.
like now, even when I'm in ceremonies, I remember, and people are gonna feel maybe a little freaked out with this coming from a facilitator. But I did a ceremony with my team, and I did a really really high dose with them because we were testing to see, okay, what's going to be the limit
Mhm.
for our guest,
Okay.
because we go past a certain amount. And so this was like early on, we were just testing it and just
Yeah.
seeing the strength of it, and we were on a really high dose, and so there's this wave that you get when you are about to separate from your body and die. I only felt this when I was having the brain surgery as I just told you about. This wave that it's it's this incredible amount of peace that I could never, I don't know if I
Mhm.
could reach in this lifetime, in this body.
Mhm.
And so during that ceremony, I started to feel that wave. And I could feel myself just wanting to like drift into it. And one of my partners on my team, she's probably be like, "Why you tell that story?" She was like, "You better not die today." And I was like, "I think everybody will be okay."
Yeah.
And she was like, "No, because I know that you're way too comfortable with dying." She was like, "Not on my watch,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
today. You're going to do that by yourself." She was like,
Yeah.
"What do I tell your family?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, Alita, it feels so good. It feels so good. This wave coming over me." And she was like, "I
Yeah.
give you 5 minutes." And she set her timer so that I could feel it for just 5 minutes. And she started tapping me on my forehead to bring me back
Mhm.
so that I wouldn't allow it to take over my whole body. And that
Right.
sounds so crazy, but it was like, it's it's the most beautiful feeling
Isn't it
ever.
crazy?
And
Were you
it was
working with psilocybin?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. That's the medicine I dance with the
Yeah.
most, so I facilitate with.
Okay. And yeah, why don't you talk to me about that? Like obviously, did you have an experience where you went and you were like, "Holy crap, this is the most life-changing work," and then you wanted to become a facilitator, or how did you reach that space?
So at first, I was kind of like most people who are from my demographic. We thought it was just like the hippie drug.
Mm. Mhm.
So I was really not interested in having brain surgery 2 times. I'm like, I don't want anything that's going to mess with my brain.
Mm. Mhm.
Um, because healing from that took a really long time. And I was a new mom at the
Right.
time also. So when I moved to Mexico, so I'm one of those people that up and just go to
Yeah.
somewhere else. So I moved to Mexico in Playa del Carmen,
I
and
love
I
that.
started working with this healing center.
Mhm.
And they kept asking me to like try plant medicine to promote it. And I'm not a person that promotes things that I don't really believe in because people
Mhm.
really trust me.
Yeah.
So I can't just say, "Oh, go do something," if I don't
Yeah.
know if
No.
it's going to hurt them or not.
Mhm.
And so it took me about like 6 months, and I finally tried it. And I was like, "Oh shit, this is a life hack." And
Mhm.
not that you don't have to do work after, but like the way it opens you up, the visions and the dreams and the messages and the things that you're able to put things together that you wouldn't typically be able to put together.
Mhm.
And so I was like, I know so many people that need this level of healing that they can't seem to reach with the typical therapy that they've been going through, and the stuff that they've been trying. And this is in one night. The awareness, the work
Mhm.
still has to happen after, but I
It's
was
the
like,
integration period is huge, but
yeah,
how much you can do in one ceremony and how it connects so many dots for you. I don't
yes,
think anybody can reach that through talk therapy. I just don't think it's possible.
no. I think that there are certain depths that people can't get to, and the most powerful part is that you're
Mhm.
coming face to face with yourself.
Mhm.
Right? It's not somebody talking at you and telling you about you. You're telling you about you. You're listening and getting these messages and downloads for yourself, you know? And so I think that's what's so magical and so powerful about it is it's something that can't be replaced, you know, and it's also indescribable at the same time because how do we explain why when you take this medicine there is so much knowledge? You know, how do you explain the spiritual aspect of that, the connectedness of that? There is, it's kind of impossible. Yes, we can scientifically go into it and talk about how it connects different neural pathways and
Yeah.
all that stuff, but that still doesn't explain it all.
I just feel like, and obviously I've done mushrooms, so I'm like, because they're connected. It's like the connection network. And so when you take
Yep.
that medicine, it connects everything within you. It like makes you actually grounded into everything else. I feel like that's the only way for me to describe it. Is the same way it has this like network underneath the ground.
Exactly. The
It-
mycelium is powerful. It's connecting every tree and every plant and all the grass and you know everything around the world. And so it is one big
network.
network. It's
Mhm.
like people don't think about how we're connected to that network,
Right.
right?
It's kind of
So
like the internet of spirituality. It's like you
it's
tap in and now you have all the knowledge at your fingertips.
if you
Right?
look at it, it is the internet underground.
Right?
If
Like
you
that's
look at the way that it grows,
yeah,
it's absolutely the internet.
right?
I feel
It's
like
like
that's modeled after.
you know what's wild too? Like I did a microdose once and I
Uh,
could see the energy moving through the power lines and I went, "Whoa." Like I get it now. Like all of these things that we've done in our society, like we're just channeling energy that's already there. There's just people who figured out how to do it and make it power. And then the same thing with the mushrooms and the whole network. It's like
yeah.
the things that we have in the physical, it's like they've just mimicked what was always there. Like the internet and that whole system, it's like, no, you can have the same like wealth of knowledge through taking mushrooms. Like it will literally give you that much knowledge within you. The same thing when you learn to harvest your own energy, not for like your lights. It's
Yeah.
so funny. Like the analogy of it all is just crazy because I'm like, when you harvest that energy within you, it gives you your power, just like the power lines do. And it brings light and like you become that light. And all of it, I just feel like when we think about it, whoever decided to put power lines and all that, they just knew what we had within us and they channeled it to give us
Exactly.
electricity.
It absolutely 100%.
It's so wild. Like watching the colors, I literally could see the power lines, the energy moving through
Moving
all
through
the
the
colors.
power.
Yep.
That's so
And
dope.
then coming back. And so I could see the direction it was going.
Wow.
And then normal life, I'm staring and I'm like, why can't I still see this? But I'm like, the mushrooms gave me superpowers. And you're
Right.
just able to see all these things that you typically wouldn't be able to see. And it's, I don't know. For me, I'm like, it's been the most beautiful experience of my whole life.
Oh, I love that. We
Yeah.
have to do a ceremony one day.
Yes. I want to come to one of your events.
Are you in Canada?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe we can meet in Mexico.
Yeah.
We
That'd
have
be
a
so
meet in
fun.
Mexico. That would be dope.
Yeah. I want to come to one. Okay. So, maybe because obviously you talked a little bit about trauma
Mhm.
and it's funny because you mentioned rape, and I think I have a memory coming back that I've had suppressed for over a decade that I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, I can't physically see yet if it was full. All I know is I remember like being unconscious and waking up with someone on top of me and then running
Mhm.
for my life. And so I'm like, I remember that pieces of it. I don't have all of it yet. But what's wild is I'm like, just the whole experience of it. I don't know if there's anything you want to say as someone who's overcome that and how you've overcome it. Um, but for me, it's so fresh and also not. And I'm just like, I can't believe for a decade I just locked it away. And I remember waking up the next morning afraid if anyone found out I would be accused of cheating
Mm.
rather than dealing with the fact that like this is my one of my ex's friends who was trusted to get me home and I woke up with him on top of me. And I was like on the side of a street because we were supposed to be waiting for a cab. And I'm like, I have these memories coming back now. And I'm like, holy crap, I can feel where it's been stored within my body for over a
Wow.
decade. I've like been almost puking for 2 weeks. And it's this trying to come out. And so just for people who have that stuff that's happened but haven't actually physically processed it yet
Right.
or allowed it to move out of their body, what that was like for you and like how overcoming it and then coming into plant medicine and all of these things, like did those things help you process what happened to you? Do you know what I mean?
I think everything helps to process it,
Hmm.
right? So working with medicine helps to process it. I mean, I feel like for for me, I'm
Yeah.
past it now. So it
Yeah.
doesn't affect me to talk about.
Right.
Like it doesn't make me cry, it doesn't make me feel
Yes.
anymore. I'm aware of it. There's a tinge, but I'm not like feeling it
Hmm.
in
Yeah.
conversation anymore. So now it doesn't like
Yeah.
affect me. So I think I've gotten a lot of it out of my body.
Right.
But I think everybody's a little bit different depending on the severity of what they went through and how they went through it.
Right.
How I was able to move past it was acknowledging it,
Hmm.
because I think when you keep it as a secret,
Hmm.
you carry the shame and guilt that comes with it. And so all of that is like being held in this container in your body, and it's like you don't want to share it because you don't want people to feel a certain way about you. So with mine's getting raped on my graduation night, I didn't tell anybody until I really kind of wrote my book.
Mm.
And I was way grown after that. And so for me, it was like being at someone's house who had came and picked me up and was so kind and so nice. For my graduation night, I'm going to take you out to this party. He was like an event promoter. And I was so excited and I felt so safe because he could come and pick me up from my house. Um, and he wouldn't take me home after. He took me to his house with a bunch of guys. And what's interesting is I never really tell this story live. You're actually probably the first person
Hmm.
I've told in an interview
Mm.
before, which is great because I love talking to mamas. Um, but so that night, he took me to his house, and it was a lot of guys there, and I was like, I was feeling really uncomfortable. I was like, "Hey, can you take me home? Can you take me home?" And so he when he raped me, it was just like this force pent down sort of thing. But what made it really bad is because it was like a loft style
Mm.
house, and there were two people at the top filming it. So like from above, so they were filming it. So when I looked up, I didn't realize it because
Mm.
after a while, when you're in an uncomfortable situation, you just kind of like
You
numb
just
out.
you have to. You just
Yeah,
feel
you
you're
like
like
numb out, check out. It's like it's
you
happening. There's
just lay
nothing.
there.
I can't fight these people.
Right.
So I'm there, but I'm not there. But I'm there, but I'm not really there. So like I couldn't tell you the whole process. I remember just saying stop, 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 and then eventually I probably just checked out.
Right.
I don't really
What are you
remember.
gonna do? Like they're not stopping, so you just like lay
Yeah.
there. Hmm.
And so the next thing I remember was looking up and seeing two people were filming it and like laughing, like it was funny. And although, everybody was kind of young, that guy, he was a grown up.
Mm.
He was considered a grown up. And I remember him not wanting to take me home. And then I guess one of the guys felt kind of bad and he took me to a bus stop. And I didn't have any money. So no one would take me home. I didn't have any money. And so I couldn't really get home. So I just walked. I walked really far. I was
Mhm.
bleeding. I was in a lot of pain. And when I got to my dad's house, who were all my uncles and my family members, all of them were there to celebrate my graduation.
Mm.
They were mad at me for not coming home. But I couldn't tell them what happened. And they still probably don't really know to this day unless they read my book. And so it was this process of it became a
Mm.
process of feeling like I didn't have a voice.
Mhm.
Because how do you explain that without people feeling like you're lying?
Right.
You just wanted to stay out. You just wanted to do this. And that kind of sort of trickled into other things in my life where I feel like I didn't have a voice.
Mhm.
And so being blamed for things that I never did, but just taking it.
Right.
Because if I try to defend myself, I look like a bitter person, or I look like I'm lying, or I look like, you know, the attractive girl who just wants to get people in trouble. And I put myself in these situations. And so I just stopped talking.
Mhm.
So I just completely lost my voice, and I wouldn't say I lost my total self-worth,
Mhm.
but I definitely lost a lot of it. My worth and my confidence wasn't truly authentic.
Mhm.
It was kind of like forced. It
Right.
was a facade or a face that I would paint on or put on
Right.
to make myself look better. But and it just like different things started to happen. People would treat me badly because you start to vibrate this certain energy of being not a victim, but kind of like people who like victims, people who are narcissists, that can take control of that energy, that they see the vulnerability of it,
Yep.
I became prey for those types of men. So I wouldn't say I was constantly raped, but I was constantly abused
Right.
and taken advantage of in that way. Looking for safety in men. And
Looking.
that became like a thing for a while. And I
Yeah.
think as you start to do the healing work, when you separate from everybody, especially when you have a child, um, you become a little different when you have a kid.
Yeah.
You know, like you don't take as much crap, I
Yeah.
guess, from people, but you're still trying to figure it out with the baby father. Sometimes if you're not in a solid
Yeah.
relationship, if you're just in some dysfunctional thing, you're still
Yeah.
trying to figure it out, and then it just leads to all kinds of other stuff. So when it came to healing, I think it was just taking a step back and figuring out who the fuck I was.
Yeah.
You know, like, who are you really? What are you here to
Yeah.
do? How do you want to feel?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and really like taking my power back and doing the work and the steps towards that. And for everyone, that would be different. And I feel like I was on a journey for a long time doing that. So there were tons of steps. There were tons of things. They were learning how to say no and not feeling like
Yeah.
shit from my no. Like, so it's a long process, you know, and it's different for everyone.
Mm-hmm. For you, yeah, because I feel like that's even for me right now. I'm like, okay, I have so many things and tools that I know how to utilize. And now it's bringing them in as I navigate the like letting go of it all.
Yeah.
And I think it's just giving yourself grace in that. Yeah.
Love it.
It's all but it's just like finding grace for yourself and knowing that it's not going to be an overnight thing. And then I also think it's acknowledging and feeling all the feelings. Like you're going to have stuff come up. You're going to have emotions come up, especially if you've never dealt with it before. And for me too, I'm more connecting the dots now also, like you just said, on okay, how has this shown up and impacted my life in ways that I was not even aware of? Because you
Exactly.
like think like, oh, this one event happened. Okay, but that can shift so much about you and the way that you start functioning in your everyday life. And like you just said, like the seeking safety in men, I feel like I started to develop that almost of like wanting that where, and I don't know what you found, but I feel like I had to cultivate that feeling within me. And now because, and not out of a like guarded and defensive place, out of a, I needed to find safety within myself before I'm ever going to be an energetic match for someone who's actually safe and
Exactly.
not someone who's trying to do the same thing. And I don't know if you found that because I know you're married now, right?
Yeah.
New baby, new everything. And like maybe
Mhm.
take me through like some of the relationships you navigated from that point on to where you are now. In finding I don't know. I always just say like I want to create this like sacred union of a true partnership to help show people how beautiful relationships really can be. And I feel like you're probably living that out with the work that you're
Yeah.
doing. And just maybe the shift of like what you found and like what led you personally, because it's always you have to do stuff within you to now being in this place with this like beautiful relationship that you're cultivating and creating.
I think first you have to really be clear on what you want
Mm-hmm.
and what you're not willing to. So I wrote down this list of my top 5 or 10 non-negotiables.
I love it. I'm gonna write these down.
Yeah. So you write down your top 10 non-negotiables. So because, you know, I was meeting a lot of people where they had all these amazing things that like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, he's beautiful and he's kind and he's, you know, he's into giving back and all this stuff that I like, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he's manipulative.
I'm just gonna close my door. Yeah.
Okay. Now I'll wait till you come.
But he's manipulative. Okay.
But he's manipulative,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's one of the things on my non-negotiables because it is something that kills me on a soul level. When people start to manipulate me, I've already been manipulated enough because of my triggers with men, right? So it's like
Mm-hmm.
seeking safety. They were easily manipulating me. So this is a thing that can really fuck me up.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get in my head and destroy my life if I allow you to manipulate me. Because once I love you, I'm like wide open,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I'm going to do all these things to make you happy. So I can't be with somebody who is going to manipulate me to get me to do whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
because it can destroy me.
Yeah.
Because I lack or at the time when I wrote this list, I was lacking discipline in that area to be able to be like, I'm done with you, bye, when I see them doing little things that are slightly manipulative. I wasn't using my voice yet. I mean, now I'm real straight up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Then I didn't trust that side of me, so I can't be with anyone who is manipulative.
Right.
That kills me on a soul level. Still to this day, friends, relationships, it doesn't matter. It's the same rules for all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went through this phase. It was like 6 months. Like I would meet a guy and I would have great time and all these things. And they would do that just one thing on
Do
the
you have
list.
an example?
Yes. Okay. Let me think of a really, really, really good one. Okay. So
Okay.
there was this guy who he was really kind, really sweet. So on my list, it was not in love with your ex,
Oh, that's a good
or
one.
wanting to be with the ex, or still, or venting about the ex, or
Uh,
don't want to talk about them.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't. I don't want to like. If you're still healing from the past, I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be the person you come to because I'm a natural healer. People want to tell me all their
Yeah.
shit. I don't want to heal you from her
Right.
in conversation. I don't want that to be my dominant conversation. I just met you. I don't like. I don't care.
Mm-hmm. That's
So
so freaking true though for the empaths and the healers, because I'm the same. People just tell me their life. They're like, "Whoa, I've never really like said this before," and I'm like, I don't know. I just have this effect on people, but that's so true when it comes to
yeah,
relationship,
yeah.
to not blur the lines almost.
It's like
Yeah.
you got to be over that because I don't know. Like now, if it comes up later, but
Yes.
if that is like our dominant conversation in our first 30 days, it's like I'm so not interested in this. So that was on my list. My non-negotiables. I don't want to be with somebody who wants to be with somebody else. Still,
Right.
this point blank.
Yep.
And it was someone. It was like I didn't want to be with somebody who smokes cigarettes. Somebody who's manipulative. It was very. It's very to the point. Someone who didn't hate kids.
Mm,
You have to love kids.
right.
Because it was, I would also meet people who they didn't like kids, but they really like me. But they didn't like
Mm,
kids, or the kids got
yeah.
on their nerves, or they were just like irritated with them, or they're very closed off to children. I got a little
Okay. How do
kid
you
at that time.
feel like? Yeah. How do you feel like you can catch that? Because I know there's so many single moms that listen to this, and I've even noticed for me that that's come up of like, oh, I wonder if he won't want to be with me because I have kids, and I'm like, okay, then he's definitely not your person. You know,
Hey, I
like,
mean,
but like, what's something that you could catch that? I guess it's like you have the
you
conversation,
can
like
catch it every
try to
way.
get to know like what they think about having kids, or like,
No, it's not even catchable. You know when someone loves kids or not. They'll be
mm,
around kids. They'll talk about it. They'll be like, "I love kids." Like it
it
comes
comes.
out of their pores.
Mm-hmm.
My partner loves kids way more than me.
Yeah, yeah,
Like I'm not a super kid person. I don't want to be with kids all day, but I love my kids. Like I don't have a passion to teach children.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
He does. He loves being with kids. It gives him joy,
Okay,
right?
yeah,
I'm not even that much into kids, but
yeah,
I know all about it because he was constantly with children. When I met him, he was, training a little kids basketball team. And like, I
right.
know that he loved kids. It comes up. You don't got to search for
So
it.
true. Like, and
You'll
if
just
it's
know.
not coming up, you have your answer.
Yeah, like you'll
Yeah,
know. It's not something that they're going to hide.
yeah, yeah.
But they love kids. They're going to be at a rec center. They're going to be volunteering, or they're going to be with their nieces or nephews, and
Yeah,
their
yeah, yeah,
uncle of the year. Like you'll know.
yeah.
But if somebody just never mentions them, or if he never brings it up within 30 days,
Mm-hmm.
I promise you, because I was like the little Jack in the Box
Yeah, you're
thing
like,
that you turn that pops out. It's like they can hold it. People can be a certain kind of way,
uh-huh.
but they cannot hide who they are for
Mm-hmm.
longer than 30 days.
I love that.
That's what I
That's
use.
so true.
After a while, who they
Mm-hmm.
really are is going to pop out. So literally, it was every 30 days. Within
Mm-hmm.
30 days, I was to the next person. And it wasn't like, oh, all these are sexual
Yeah,
relationships. It
yeah.
was like just going on a date, just having
Yep.
conversation. If you did anything on that non-negotiable list, and this wasn't like, oh, you have to have $1 million in your bank account. It wasn't shallow things. These
Mm-hmm.
are things that mess me up on a soul level things.
Yeah.
These are things that will fuck my life up.
Mm-hmm.
things, or things that I can't move past. Like, I don't want to smell like cigarettes. My
Right.
dad, but it's because my dad smoked. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to be with the alcoholic. Why? Because my dad was into heavy drinking. And
Mm-hmm.
so I don't feel safe in those environments, but other people may be different. So these were things that were on my list. Like, I don't want to be with someone who has serious addictions.
That's so true.
You
That's
know,
so
it doesn't matter what that addiction is. If it's harmful to me or others, or it makes them unpredictable,
mm-hmm.
I don't want to be with them because it doesn't make me feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
But for somebody else, it could be fine, right? But on my list,
That's the trauma and the chaos in them that they're like, ooh,
right?
I love my unsettled nervous system. It
they
feels
like
like
they like
love.
the chaos. It's like for me, But
Uh,
I can promise you,
yeah.
Carly, within 30 days,
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna show who they really are. It's
Mm-hmm.
gonna pop up. They're gonna get an attitude with you or yell at you, or you can see if they're controlling or narcissistic. You can see if they're manipulative. You can see all these things. It's gonna pop up.
So
When
true.
Now
And
you
so,
could choose to ignore it
yeah.
and think that you're so different that they're going to change for you,
Mm,
which that doesn't work.
no.
We try to like love people into who we see
Yeah.
that they become, but that doesn't always work.
No.
90% of the time it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. So it's like you were dating these guys and you were able to see it. And this is because I'm on that space right now where like
Mhm.
I'm finally starting to date. I'm talking to people. And it's like, it's so interesting being way more self aware and knowing your own worth dating versus I just like want them to fall in love with me so they choose me. Like I used to be like, oh, yay, they're giving me attention. Like now I need to make them my boyfriend because like I got to lock them in so that I'm not alone. Where now I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just seeing what you're giving me. I'm going
If
to see you for you actually and not idealizing this relationship I know I could have and putting it on you. So it's a very different space for me, but I'm in that right now. Where like,
you're waiting for them to choose you, they're not your person.
yeah, no, exactly. No, say that
Because
again. Say that again. That's so true and so
if
good.
if you're waiting for them to choose you, they
Mm-hmm.
are not your person, because the person that really wants you, they're not going to let anybody else have you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're not going to take any chances. They're going to be like, I am not letting her get away. It's that. Like
Mm-hmm.
my partner, I remember, because he's like 6 years younger than me, which
Yeah.
is like heard of for me.
Yeah.
I was like dating older guys,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
6 years older at least than me.
Yeah.
He's 6 years younger, so it was very, very different. I was like, not really, that
Yeah.
interested and stuff. But I remember we were like messing around, we were working on stuff, and he saw
Wait,
some of
I
the
need to know this.
guys.
How did you guys meet? Like, what's the connection here?
Okay. So we both work with helping people. So there was a hurricane,
Mm.
and I had created some campaigns to help people get out of Texas, out of Houston
Mm-hmm.
during the hurricanes, and he was working with the hurricanes. And we had been Instagram
Yeah.
friends. He had DM me like a while back. I was like, oh, so cute,
Yeah.
but not interested. I'm in my own little world.
Yeah.
Um, but I met him in person. Still was never interested in dating him. But he was a good person, and
Mm-hmm.
so he would see me like talking to guys. He's like, why are you talking to that person? Why are you even talk to them? Like why are you
Yeah.
letting them treat you like that? Like, he was very mad,
Yeah.
but he was just like my friend,
Yeah.
like homie. Never
Yeah.
saw him like that. And I
Yeah.
think one time we did this camp because we started working on this nonprofit together. We did a camp, and I remember riding back in the taxi with him, and I was just like laying in his arms, and he was just like caressing my arm, and I was like, "Oh, this is different." But I feel safe here. So
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't like we weren't dating. We
Right.
didn't have that whole thing. It was just more of a I know better.
Mm.
And that's what I kept saying. It's like, I know better. And I knew I didn't want to be without him,
Mm.
even if I didn't know if I wanted to be with him.
Right.
Because in my mind, he wasn't my type. But I was like, man, but this person, he cares more about me than any person I've ever met. He
Mm.
shows up and supports me. He allows me to be more of myself.
Right.
So that's also a really big thing, especially people who are empathic and are healers and do this work. that the person you are with can hold space for you in a way where you can be more of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in the world, sometimes we have to like kind of
Yeah.
taper down a little bit or, adjust. But
Mm-hmm.
like they encourage you to be more of you instead of take pieces away from you
Right.
to make them feel better.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of relationships they're trying to condition you and mold you into what suits them
Right.
more so than pushing you to be more of who you are
So
so
true.
that you'll be more in your purpose. So I think that was the one of the biggest differences
Mm-hmm.
with us. Like, so we never really dated.
Right.
We,
You just kind of fell into his arms.
yeah, I was just in his arms. I wasn't in love
Yeah.
when we decided to be together.
Yeah.
I just knew because I couldn't trust that being in love thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yes.
being in love, you kind of go in and out of that.
Right.
No, it's where do you feel the most safe?
That's so true. Because you can fall in love with people who are terrible for you.
Horrible. Like, get the butterflies and I got that a lot. And those
Same.
are the people that treated me the worst.
Right?
So I don't look for that. It was I know better. I know
Mm-hmm.
that this is a person that's rare.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of if he's younger than me and like all these other things, but it's rare to find someone who could hold space for someone like me
Mm-hmm.
and be able to allow like push me towards being more of myself and admire that and not try to take pieces away from me
Right.
to just cater to them.
Right.
And I found that a lot of relationships, especially with the older guys I dated, is they just wanted me to do them
Right.
and nothing else. And so my purpose is that didn't fit.
Right.
It
See,
doesn't
that's
fit.
so true. Because I think that too, even with myself, I'm like, okay, what do I really want? Right. And I'm like, but when you're a big personality and you're in front of a lot of people, it's like, it's going to be very hard to be with a guy who they're doing the same thing. Like,
Mhm.
who's, and not necessarily the same thing, but it's like, if they're on this path of like, it's my life and it's about me, you need to kind of fall into their life. Versus, I'm like, when you have a big life you've already created, you kind of need someone who's going to be able to fall into yours. And I don't know if you found that, like, you were able to merge lives
So,
easier because, yeah,
well, it's not they fall into yours, you fall into theirs, right?
yeah,
It's how can we push both of us
yeah,
to be the best version of ourselves,
right,
right? Wherever we need to go for this season, if
mhm,
it's towards Phoenix and stuff, then that's where we're gonna go. If
right,
it's your season and you got stuff that's ramping up, I need to be more of a support for you. I got the baby. If I have a
yeah,
ceremony and I gotta be gone for a week, go do your thing. I got the
yeah,
kids.
yeah,
So it, it's like a give and a take. It's a
yeah,
balance. It's not you're the star, you're not,
yeah.
right? It's yeah, I know.
I
I'm a
think it's
big
important.
light, right?
Hmm.
But they also have their things. Like we're not going to just be with somebody
No,
who has a nothing, you
it doesn't
know?
work. I'm going through a divorce because it's just like it doesn't work. Like they
They
need
have
to have
something.
their stuff that they love, and yeah,
You have to be passionate about something to be
hmm,
with me.
yes,
Because I'm so passionate, so my brain doesn't really understand people who don't want to do anything with their life.
hmm,
Doesn't process that very well. It's like, what is your purpose? Like, go after your purpose,
yeah,
and so I'm pushing you towards your purpose, right?
yeah,
Just like you're pushing me towards mine.
yeah,
And sometimes they cross. So,
hmm,
like, we'll be speaking at the same events because we're both in mental health work. But
right,
he does his from a sports perspective. I do mine from a totally different side, right?
right,
So I'm not into sports. He's not into what I'm doing.
right,
But we cross. So if he
right.
needs support, I'm at the games cheering him on. Loudest cheerleader. I'm
I love
excited,
it so much.
you know.
Yeah,
And but I'm not into sports. I'm into
yeah,
sports when he's doing it,
right,
right? Or he's
thousand
teaching
percent.
it,
It's
right?
you're a
So
cheerleader of him. It doesn't matter what the stuff
I'm
is.
just cheerleading.
Yeah,
And then when it's my stuff, I get messages, go mommy, have a great time. And
yeah,
so it's the same
yeah.
cheerleading,
Hmm.
right? So it's not who needs to support who. We all gotta both build each other up.
Hmm.
So look for that. Look for a person whose light doesn't feel dimmed because your light is shining.
Right.
Like you don't have to dim your light to be with anyone. If you
Hmm.
feel like even a little bit, not your person.
Hmm. That's
If they
so true.
tell you if you have something that you need to do that
Yeah.
is a part of your purpose, and they tell you that you can't,
Mm,
or why are you doing that? Not your person.
see.
I've never heard that come out of my partner's mouth.
Well, and I think that's a hard one too when you're married.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then that starts to come out when you find yourself and your partner is not supportive. Like I see this a lot in business with women, and their partners all of a sudden are so resistant to the change and them succeeding. And I'm always like, "Ugh," like this has always been an issue. It's just finally showing face now. And that's just a hard thing to navigate also, because it's like, are you going to stay small for this partner, or are you going to become who you're supposed to be? And then whether the partner is there or not, it doesn't really matter, because the only thing that you can choose is you. And I watch people dim themselves to remain in a relationship because they're so afraid of what their life would look like if they had to navigate a separation or a divorce, or even the
Yeah,
partner having to be the one to step up and shift and allow their partner to become who they're supposed to be. But it's not easy to navigate. And I feel like it's just such, what you just said is so important to remember, because I see this happen all the time. And I'm like, I already know where this is going, but like it's for the person to journey and figure out what that's
yeah,
going to look like for them.
it's a sacrifice. So, like, any relationship is
Hmm.
not 100% perfect, but it's
Yeah.
perfect for them,
Yeah.
right? And all these relationships have sacrifices. We all have things that we have to work on,
Yeah.
as we grow, as we change. Like, who I was last year is not who I am this year,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So, being with someone who gives you space to grow
Hmm.
and change and, move, and then they be like, okay, well, let me get to know this new person,
Yes.
right? That's what I feel like we need more
Yeah.
of on both sides,
Hmm.
right? But as long as we're both constantly growing
Yes.
and elevating each other, I think it's okay, because we're not always going to be on the same page.
Right.
But if the goal is
Growth.
to hold space for somebody and to support them to becoming more of
Yeah.
themselves and loving them, I'm with that.
Hmm.
But if it's like, oh, I need to snatch you back, like, no, you
Hmm.
can't do this.
Like,
Like,
ooh, I'm feeling my worth is getting questioned because you might outgrow me, and so I'm going to try to pull you back. Like that's not
that should
healthy.
never be a thought.
Mm-mm.
You can't, like, you outgrowing me should never be a thought, because if
Right.
we're both growing,
Yeah.
it's not a competition. You can't
Right.
outgrow me. We're just growing.
Right.
We're not trying to see like who's the best, who has the upper hand here.
Right.
Like, it's hey, let's keep growing so that
Yeah.
we can do this. Let's
Yeah.
build this thing.
Yeah.
Like that's the goal. It's not, I don't want you to outshine me, or I don't want you to make more money than me, or I don't want you to be more known than me, or I don't want more people to be
Right.
attracted to you, or whatever people's
I know.
things are. But it's like, I was attracted when you met me.
Hmm.
Like if I look at you, I'm like, she's beautiful. You can't be with an insecure man by any means, or
It's not
you're
going to
gonna be
work.
hell. You're
Like
gonna be
it's not
hell.
going to work. Like they need
Yeah.
to be so secure. Okay, I want to go back to this with you because
Okay.
how you said, if whatever, what was the line you said about like if you're wondering if they haven't chosen you, it's not your person or whatever. Like if
Right.
you're waiting for them to choose you, because obviously you guys weren't really dating, it just kind of happened. Like how did he show up in the beginning to be like, no, you're like, you are my person? Because I feel like
So,
that's so important, and that's something that I never used to do. I used to freaking pursue the man. I'd be like, you're my person, and I'm like, this time I'm like, I could maybe see clearly, but I'm like, I don't want to be the one, because I'm like, I think I never felt chosen because I like forced them into choosing me. It was like, no, I want you. And I was so overbearing.
so focused, but that's a female thing. We
Right.
all do that. That is a
Okay.
female trait, because we want to be chosen so bad that we're like, no, you're my person. I will do whatever you
Yeah.
need. I will make whatever sacrifices. I would change
Literally.
whatever you want to change. I'll
Yeah.
be whatever the perfect person for you.
Yeah.
But I found that a lot of women have like lost touch with themselves. They don't even know who they are anymore, because they've changed so much for other
Mm-hmm.
people to fit
Shifting.
their mold,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or what looks good for them, or what you're supposed to be like if you're with that kind of person.
Right.
You know, just don't even know who you are anymore. And then there's this process I have to end up taking my clients on, which doesn't matter how much money they make. I have had multimillionaire clients, and I have
Mm-hmm.
had just the mamas that are the school teachers.
Yeah.
Same issue though.
Yeah.
They don't know who they are,
Mm-hmm.
because they've conformed so much. And so I think with me, with Martin, it was like I'm not really into like younger guys and like all this stuff. And so I remember telling him, I was like, yeah, it's just like my boo thing, right? Because in my mind, I was like, yeah, we're just kind of hanging out, and I feel safe here, I love
Yeah.
it. And he was like, no, I'm not. He was like, no, I'm not. And I was like, why are you tripping? He was like,
Yeah.
I'm not your boo thing. No, I'm not. It was like, and so I think in that moment is when we kind of were like, oh, I guess we're gonna be together. Because
Wow.
he refused to
To
accept
be that.
being a plaything
Mm.
in his mind, or that term that I used, because I couldn't say boyfriend because he was so young, and I was kind of like, I don't know,
Yeah,
he's so
yeah.
young. And I was like, yeah, it's just my boo thing. You're my boo thing. And he was like, no. The words was, no, the fuck I'm not, is what
Yeah.
he said. It was very serious. And I was like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
what are you trying to do?
Yeah.
I guess we together then. It was literally like that.
Yeah.
It was no romantic
Right.
charades. It was just that simple. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
I know I don't want to be without you.
Right.
And that was it. And I know better because
I
I've,
love that.
I've dated enough people
Mm-hmm.
to know when someone is valuable.
Right.
Very hard to find people like that.
Well, and that you were level headed through it of not, because I've noticed that even on myself, like those spaces where I had all the butterflies and all the crazy stuff show up. I'm like, that's my nervous system freaking going wacko. And then I'm like, there's people who I've met that I'm like, I feel so just good with you. Like you're not a threat to me in a like you are a safe person, you are a good person. And so I can just like be calm in that. And I think that's something I'm learning to notice versus in the past it was like all the electric
Butterfly. Yeah.
butterflies and I'm like, no, it's better when that doesn't happen and you just feel calm. And I've heard so many people say that about their husbands. They're like, when we
Yeah.
met, it felt home. Like it just felt comfortable. It didn't feel like electric. Obviously the chemistry is there and it builds, but in that moment where you're meeting, it just feels like, why do I feel so like comfortable with you and safe with you?
Yeah.
Which
Because
is what you
you
really
think
want.
about, do you want the electricity?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not to say we don't want it, because we've been taught to really want the electricity part of
Mm-hmm.
it, right? But where is the calm settling? Because it's like, okay, your body is doing all this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's it's just, it's like malfunctioning. But we've been
Mm-hmm.
taught really good, stable feeling. But what I found is that we're wrong
Mm-hmm.
in how we're taught, and that when someone makes you feel just completely safe and at ease, like you were just saying,
Mm-hmm.
that's your person. Now you could have passion and you can have like all these things that build up and all this
Yes.
stuff. But if you can just really be yourself. I mean, you don't have to be shy. You don't have to like think about what you got to say. You don't have to think about anything, but you're
Mm-hmm.
just able to just off the bat
Be you.
be yourself. Like this is your bestie.
Mm.
I feel like that's your person.
Your bestie. It's
It's not the
you know,
the the charges going off
yeah.
everywhere. It's literally like if this person can make you feel safe enough to just be how you are. Not
Mm-hmm.
comb your hair, not putting makeup, not that person that we present, our ego self,
Mm-hmm.
which is beautiful.
Yeah.
But that person that it just, it just is. And they were like, oh wow, I just really love you. Like they see you for who you
Yeah.
really are.
Yeah.
With all your flaws, with all your shit, they just like, that's my person.
I love
Feel
it.
safe. I think
Yeah.
that what I started, that's when I said, I know better. So that I know
Mm.
better was, no, I don't feel all this electrical stuff, but
Right.
I feel really safe. And I know that I haven't met a person that I don't have to think about if they're thinking
Mm.
something about me, or if they like me, or if they don't, or if they
Mhm.
support me, or if they don't, or if they're going to cheat on me or not. Like, I've
Right.
never had those thoughts. In 6 years, I never thought, like, when he's out, sometimes he goes somewhere, and I'm like, just stay tonight with your
Yeah.
friends. Like, just do your thing.
I
Because
love
my brain doesn't go to, is he doing
right.
something? Ever. We don't have that
Right.
because we're like besties. We're going to tell each other everything. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
we've made this pact. Like, don't do anything you don't want me to do to you.
Right.
We don't abuse each other.
Right.
That's like one of the top things. No, we don't yell at each other. We probably have yelled maybe 3 times in 6 years.
And then you
Just
probably
because, like,
talk about it because you're probably like, oh shit, I got kind of like activated there.
yeah, yeah,
Right? Versus like where, yeah, where it just like goes unnoticed. I think when you're on that path though, and you're doing the healing work and you're doing the stuff, when you do have these moments where obviously there's going to be moments where you get activated in life, you're able to actually move through it and talk about it rather than just leaving it and being an absolute mess. Are your kids back?
yeah, yeah. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, you're good.
Kid is at the door. You hear him? He's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
let me in. Hold on. Just like a few more minutes. In a few minutes, baby.
The kids can stay. They're good. It's real life.
Like you.
Yeah, no, literally.
It's
Okay,
fine.
so last thoughts. This has been so good. I love it. And obviously we kind of talked about your journey in spirituality and all that, but like anything you want to say, even to women in maybe women in business, like you're a mom and you're building a business and you're doing all these things. Like, what have you found? Do you just feel like because you're on purpose, it's just you're able to make it flow with everything going on? I feel like because you do retreats, so you're leaving your baby sometimes. And maybe even just to speak on that, because it's like I do the same thing, but it fills me up. And I'm like, my kids are going to be old and not need me one day. And it's like, I still need to be me and I still need to do
Yeah,
what I need to do. And I think it also shows them, like, even though they're young right now, like they're going to understand that you get to prioritize you. Like I think so many women lose themselves and almost throw themselves into motherhood as their entire identity because they didn't actually have an identity to begin with. And so it brings them this like attached comfort versus no, you get to be you and be an awesome mom. Like you can
yeah,
do both and you can have space from your children where you're working and you're doing things and then you also can be with them and really be with them. I don't know if you want to say anything on just motherhood and business.
yeah.
Yeah.
So a few things. So it is a balancing act. So there are some mothers
Mm-hmm.
where their whole life's purpose
Mm-hmm.
is to have children and nurture those children,
Yeah.
right? That is their goal for life, and that's a beautiful thing. For me and for you and some moms who have other dreams that they've had also
Mm-hmm.
before having children, I think it's really important to do what sets your soul on fire, even if it takes a little extra time and a little extra energy,
Mm-hmm.
because that balancing act is not for the weak. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's not. It's hard, especially like moms who are single moms. But even if you have a partner, like even with
Yeah.
me, like it is very hard balancing. Like my husband's at work, my baby is trying to get in the house. It's like they're out of school. I feel like they're
Yeah.
out of school every
Yeah.
couple. They have like a break
Mm-hmm.
of some sort, right? And so we have to balance those things, but it's like also who am I and what was I placed on this earth to do? And I look at my kids and I feel like my kids' purpose are a part of my purpose. So if I fulfill my purpose, it catapults them into theirs.
Mm-hmm.
What my kids see me doing, it's a part of their purpose. My son, he facilitates at my ceremonies.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so
I
like,
love it so much because he's 18,
yeah,
right?
well, he's been doing it since he was 16.
I love it.
So he's been doing it for a while, but it's
Mm-hmm.
like what they see you do. When they see you doing what you love,
Mm-hmm.
you're giving them the tools also for some of what their purpose is going to be. That's why they were given to you.
Yeah.
Like you'll notice there will be things that your kids love to do that you do.
Mm,
Like son loves graphic design and photography and all these things. Those are things that I did
right.
as my job that I love to do. And so he's picked that up and that's how he's making money and he loves
Right.
doing it. He's creating his music. And so like your kid's purpose is attached to you fulfilling yours. You are the tools. Like what you give them and what you show them is what they're going to do. So if you want them to live their dreams and you want them to be confident and worthy and, you know, feel proud of themselves and all that stuff, they're going to learn that from how you treat you.
Mm.
You get what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
And that is, and that's hard because that's a lot of pressure on the mamas,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like, we got to do y'all, we got to raise you guys, and we got to not feel guilty about doing us at the same
Right.
time and find the energy just to even take a shower sometimes.
Right. But I also think that gives you permission that like you chasing your purpose, your passion, your goals, your dreams, your everything, it's impacting your kids in such a positive way. And
Yeah.
I've always known that too. Like I got
Yeah.
pregnant unexpected, had my first baby. And I remember I was with, it's like the beginning of my spiritual journey where I started learning about all this stuff. And she had told me he was meant to be like a philanthropist or something like this. And I was like, that's so random. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, but me helping people and him seeing and being surrounded by this type of stuff, he's
Yeah.
already in on the path to have the access and the people and the connections to do the work he's meant to do. And
Exactly.
you're going to be able to help lead them in that when they get there because you've done all of this building up before it's time for them. And I think, honestly,
Exactly.
I think you just gave permission for the moms who feel that, like, because
Mhm.
there is moms who want to be full-time stay-at-home moms. That is their purpose. But if that's not you, it's like stop feeling the guilt and shame for it and understand like your purpose is to be the mom that shows them how to do other stuff or like fulfill your purpose so that they can
Yeah.
fulfill their purpose.
At the end of the day, you
Yeah.
can't be everywhere at every time. There is no balance.
Mm-hmm.
People say like, "Oh, you got to balance." There is no balance when you are a mom,
Yes.
when you are even if you're single, if you're a
Mm-hmm.
mom or single or married, trying to run a business, trying to walk in your purpose, there is no balance. That's just doing the best you can with what you have at this time. There are going to be times where I am gone
Right.
and I'm not here, and I can't be with them every day, but I'm off doing my work. And then when I get back, then I'm all theirs and I have to separate from work. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? And, something's gonna have to suffer a little bit. It's
Yep.
not gonna hurt them,
Mm-hmm.
but it's gonna be uncomfortable sometimes. I can't balance it all. I can't make it equal every
Mm-hmm.
day because I don't have enough energy to do that. I'm still human, even though I feel
Right.
like I'm,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I'm still human, right? And so it's like we cannot try to create this or live up to this facade that we can be perfectly balanced
All the
parents. We're going to be able to do everything for everyone every day. It is impossible to do. So I think I've given up on the concept
time. Right.
of trying to balance it all and just focus on doing the best I can with what I have today
Mm-hmm.
because that takes so much pressure off of me
Right.
because I can't be perfect. Some days I'm not going to wash the clothes. Some days I'm not going to clean up the house. And some days I'm going to be in clean mode and I'm going to be
Yeah.
doing all this stuff. Some weeks the house is going to be a hot ass mess.
Yep.
And some weeks it's going to be pristine. And I'm just going to go off of how I feel, not to put too much pressure on myself to be so perfect. Because if I go to somebody else's house, they're not like that. Unless
Right.
they have a nanny or somebody coming and doing it for them. If they're one person, we can't do it all.
No.
Something is going to suffer somewhere when you're
At
giving
different
so
phases.
much
Yeah.
into one space. And I
It's so
have to be able to give 100% sometimes. Now,
mm-hmm.
right now, it's like I operate off of giving what I'm doing like 10% late at night when everybody's asleep, 30% at another time, 100 at another time, and 20 at another, right? It just depends on the day. But it's doing the little steps. It's like, don't allow that to stop you. It may take a little bit longer, but still do it.
Right. And it really is. My kid's up here too, so we'll end it in a minute. But like it's just everything you just said is so true because I think sometimes people are trying to be like, okay, but if I want to be the best wife, then I have to cook and I have to clean and I have to keep the house clean and then I have to do this with the kids and then like how do I work my business and how do I do this and how do I and it's like it's going to be give and take. Like you
Yeah.
said, some days I have nothing to do business wise. Cool, I clean my house. Other days I'm full-time momming and I don't have capacity. Other days my kids are on tablets all day because I'm like in a creative flow and I have stuff to do. And it's being okay with all of it and just knowing every day is going to look different and you have to be willing to like allow it to shift and change and just taking the pressure off to be the perfect everything. And I don't know if you found this, but like I hired help. Like I have someone cleaning my house right now. To me, that was so worth it because I'm like, this is something that I'm not able to always do. And if this takes some like pressure off of myself and it costs me like $100, it's so worth it. So be willing to put your energy and your money into things too for you that are going to make your life easier,
Yeah.
especially as a single mom that's trying to do it all. Like,
I'm looking for the house cleaner. You hear me? Like I'm like, we just moved to Atlanta and I'm
yeah,
like, we're gonna have to get somebody like once a week or
yeah,
once a month to do like a deep clean,
deep
something.
clean.
It's wearing
Clean,
me out.
clean. Like it's the bathrooms, the scrubbing. I'm like, I can keep the like other stuff clean, but I'm like that type of stuff that's just an extra thing that gets piled on. Hire
Yeah.
someone. So
At
worth
least
it.
these toddlers are crazy. Like
Yes,
they take care of everything. You can clean the whole house is back messy before you wake up in the morning.
literally,
What happened here? You know, it's
literally.
constant work. And so, yeah, I just think that as mamas, and I'll end it
Mm,
with that, is do the best you can with what you have and don't feel guilty about that.
so true.
That is okay.
And my vacuum goes on at the end because I have someone helping clean my house. I love it. It's
It was
perfect.
a perfect ending.
So true. Thank you so much for being here. Where can people find you? Obviously, I'll put your stuff in the show notes and the links, but
Okay.
like your Instagram, your website, maybe just
My
share that real fast.
Yeah, so my Instagram is at Phoenix White, and my website is thesacredcelestial.com. And that's it.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you
You're
for this
welcome. We got to
conversation.
talk more. I'm going to send you
I
my
know.
number.
I'm like, I
We can
could talk. I
talk.
need to know everything about you. And I know you have that retreat coming up in Atlanta. I'm going to look at the dates because I've been wanting to come to Atlanta too. Um, if I'm already booked with another event, I want to come to your next one.
Okay, so maybe come to the one in San Diego then.
Okay. When
Actually,
is
wait,
that?
I want to talk to you
No,
because
when is
I
that?
come to my retreat in Mexico. So let's talk
Okay.
because I think
Okay.
that
Send me
you would
the
be great.
details because I'm like, I have a house in San Diego and I've been wanting to go back. So I'm like, maybe
Oh,
the dates will line
my
up.
next big ceremony is in San Diego.
This is so great. This is going to be so fun.
This September in San Diego. We're doing one for people with cancer in Atlanta.
Aw.
A. And then I have Savage, which is not a plant medicine ceremony, but it's a
Mhm.
healing event for
Yeah.
women. That's going to be April 7th, which is next weekend.
I love it. Okay. Thank you so much for being here.
You're
Thank you for your
welcome.
time. Have the
Thank
best
you.
day. Thank you. Bye, you guys.
Bye.